Hello and welcome to the NFL Preview Show, sponsored by Oddschecker. I'm Tom Julian, this is Ben McClymon, and this is Jeff Reinebold. Jeff joining us all the way from British Columbia, Canada. Jeff, good to see you. How are you doing?
Hello, Jeff.
I'm doing outstanding. It's good to see you two guys. It's great to be back with Oddschecker. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We have waited a long time for the off-season to finish. There's been a lot of drama, Ben.
It's a long off-season, isn't it?
It feels that way, but there's always lots to talk about, so we're going to get straight into it because we don't have Jeff for very long. Jeff, you've got a busy coaching schedule going on at the moment with the BC Lions. How are you getting on? How's your season?
We got some young players. I'm coordinating the special teams, and our guys are playing extremely well. We're a young team, Tom, and when you got young players, every day is an adventure, but every day is fun because you're coaching all the little details, and it's really fun to watch them grow and play together.
Well, Jeff, it's been another crazy off-season. What has been the biggest storyline out of a number of them for you?
Well, you know what, Tommy, really there is no off-season in the National Football League. It's just there are no games, but you're constantly trying to build your roster, change your football team, and make yourself better throughout the off-season. The draft, the combine, the OTA, coaching sessions, all of that stuff. So I look at some teams in the National Football League that I think have done an outstanding job in the offseason of improving themselves. And I think maybe the Chicago Bears have done as good a job as anybody because, even before they signed Khalil Mack, for my money, one of the best defensive players in the game right now, they had improved their talent around their young quarterback. They had an improved defense. They're really strong safety. And I think, that football team stands as the team that, for me, has done the best job in the offseason of improving themselves.
Yeah, I think so. And when you look at the Khalil Mack thing, you could say that's a great addition that they've made. But how about Roquan Smith in the draft? That could be the number one pickup for the Bears.
Well, you got to be strong down the middle on defense. So Roquan Smith is a sideline tackle from the inside linebacker position. And now when you can team him with a guy like Mack, who is a complete game changer as an edge rusher. Again, we talk about all the time about Von Miller, and I think Von Miller, rightly so, gets an awful lot of credit. Bosa gets an awful lot of credit in great edge guys. But when you watch the tape, it's amazing the double and triple team that Mack fights through to make plays, and I think that's going to make all the players around him better.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Roquan, I think opens them up inside. The Bears, I think, are an undervalued defensive football team.
I'm glad you said that because I'm looking here. Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Leonard Floyd.
Floyd could have a big season, I think.
Absolutely.
He might be freed up now.
And well, that's exactly it, Jeff, isn't it? Because once you add a talent like Mack, all the opposition are going to have to double team him. So Floyd gets basically a free run at times, and if you then try and take out Floyd as well, there's just options and options and options. Yeah.
Yeah, I think every team, in their division, are sending the Raiders thank you cards right now in Kansas City, and everybody's sending thank you cards because they don't have to deal with them anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're in the NFC North now, you got to get after Rodgers, you got to get after Stafford, you got to get after Cousins, and there's no guy in the game right now for me that does a better job of it than Khalil Mack. So I think the Bears really even the playing field in the NFC North with that acquisition.
It's a playground for Mack, isn't it, with all those quarterbacks that he's going to challenge himself with. So I find it quite interesting, Ben, that you can still pick up the Bears as a Super Bowl team for 80-1.
That's a long way off. As someone who's followed the Bears for a few years.
Yeah,
now,
I was going to say that.
You rarely see these kind of turns. Like you saw the Rams last year, massive turnaround, but the Super Bowl's often one step too far. Even as I like some of the additions on offense as well, people like Miller. There's some exciting players, Allen Robinson perhaps, but I think it's one step too far. Jeff might go against me. I think Bears Super Bowl, Jeff.
You know what? I think they got to worry about the playoffs first.
Yeah.
You got to get there, haven't you?
Certainly, Mack is going to boost their belief, and I think this is really important. I talked to an NFL player about this the other week about how important is it for the Raiders to sign him. Well, I think this is really going to not only create a situation, and John Gruden said he said that we're going to be criticizing this till the cows come home. But it's not the media criticism that concerns you, it's criticism inside the locker room. Because every one of those players knows that Khalil Mack is the best defensive player, on their football team, certainly one of the best in the league. And when you let him walk out the door, that doesn't say the right things to your football team. And I think this is a situation where you're sitting in the Bears locker room now and you go, whoa, the McCaskies are really committed to winning, because it's always been, talk to Sean Gale and he'll tell you, that McCaskey family is out of, they don't spend money, throwing money at problems. They're very conservative with finances, and for them to go out and give him the contract they gave him, that speaks volumes about how committed they are to get the Super Bowl back in Chicago.
Yeah, do you think the players at the Raiders might be thinking, well, you pay our coach $100 million, but you won't pay our best player $100 million? That might ruffle a few feathers.
Yeah, and again, I understand that. I understand how that works, because obviously the players, they pay attention to the money thing very closely. The challenge is the coaches are not in the salary cap, but the players are.
Yeah.
And so, it's difficult. And I think one of the things that fans have got to remember about the Raiders is that they just redid their quarterback. Now, when a quarterback goes to his second contract, he's going to get rich. You can only pay so many guys.
Yeah.
So take $100 million to Khalil Mack, that probably means when Amari Cooper comes up again, you're not going to be able to keep Amari Cooper. So this was a difficult decision for Reggie McKenzie and John Gruden to make. They had to say, looking down the road, already renegotiated our quarterback, and he's now making top money. We got Amari Cooper coming. He's going to demand top money. We just can't make this commitment. The Bears, on the other hand, Trubisky's in the second year of his rookie deal, so he's really cheap for them against the cap. That allowed them the flexibility to make that move.
Yeah, the Raiders have had a weird off-season, Ben. Obviously, they've let go of Mack. They cut Martavis Bryant, even he signed with them after the season, hasn't played a game. Brian Switzer's the same. They've got rid of E.J. Manuel and Connor Cook just to bring in A.J. McCarron. It seems like Jeff, it seems a bit clueless to me, to be honest.
I think what they're trying to do is find the right combination of guys for what they want. In every one of those cases, like Switzer, for example, that you go out and you sign him from the Cowboys, and you anticipate he's going to be the guy to be your punt returner and your situational slot, and it just didn't work out. Now he's in Pittsburgh. Martavis Bryant was the risk to start, because Martavis Bryant has a history of not great work ethic, and John Gruden is going to make sure he has guys on his football team to do it the way he wants it done. And, that made him expendable. So I think the Raiders are going through a process of trying to find out who are the guys that they want in that locker room for a 16-game schedule that is going to be tough. One thing you can guarantee in pro football, you're going to get adversity. So you better have guys that are going to hang in and play together.
I think that's totally fair. We'll see whether the Raiders hang together or not. Ben, you don't believe it, but we shall see. They got a real tough start. They're playing the Rams at home, but it's a California game. They're obviously moving to Vegas. There's a lot of unrest with the Raiders at the moment, and the Rams are very heavy favourites in that one, 8-15. With Oddschecker, whereas the Raiders, you can get them out at 24-13, but I wouldn't be putting any money near them.
Nah, not one of the Rams off-season acquisitions as well. And if they play like they did last year, I think they'll blow Raiders out the water.
Yeah, so it's an exciting week one. There's a host of games to choose from. Should we talk a little bit about some of the games that we'll be able to watch here, and where better to really start into the preseason preview, the regular season preview. It's been too long. Than with the opener. So it's the Falcons at the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champs. Now, Jeff, it was an interesting time for the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, a glorious end to what could have been a very difficult season. And Nick Foles, the quarterback, was the saviour at the end of the day. Now, Foles will start, it looks like, against the Falcons. and that is it's a good move, I think, for the Eagles long term, but short term against the Falcons must be happy with that.
Well, Foles didn't play very well in the preseason, and that's got to be a little bit of a concern for the Eagles, and but I think the Eagles have an outstanding roster. They went out and got Michael Bennett. They've got pass rushers all over the field. They're good in the secondary. They've got weapons. Jay Ajayi gives them an outstanding back that you can put the game on his shoulders when you're trying to close out a game. They've got better than average skill, I think. The thing with the Falcons is the Falcons are going to bring in a hungry team that can run. Their defense is built to chase the football. The question with the Falcons, Tom, it's always going to be the same thing. Until that offense plays at the level that it did a few years ago, when they were within an eyelash of being world champions, they're going to be under criticism. And Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator, is going to be under a lot of scrutiny. They have a ton of weapons there, and they just have to find a way to keep those guys, all involved in the game and take advantage of Matt Ryan's ability to disperse the ball.
Yeah, we were having a little chat before we started filming this, weren't we, Tom? And you have the Falcons as a big favourite for this game. You see no way that the Eagles are going to win it.
And I think I said that before during the Super Bowl as well. So we'll see how that one goes. No, I love the Falcons. They are my sneaky pick. I think they're at 20-1 to win the big game. And Jeff, I love everything they've done. Obviously, you've got Julio Jones, Devonta Freeman. They've added Calvin Ridley in there. It's the second year of Steve Sarkisian's offense, and I just think that they've got so many options that they're just going to be really, really exciting. And the Eagles are missing a couple of really big players as well. I just think everything about this game says Atlanta for me.
Do the odds say Atlanta?
The odds say, Ben.
Oh, quite yes.
You caught me looking. The odds say that the Philadelphia Eagles are still favourites, so you can get Philadelphia at 7-10. But to me, it's 23-20 for the Atlanta Falcons. I'd be going for
Small
them.
favourite. Yeah, I'd be backing you the Falcons as well. I think they're going to have a lot on offense this year, and I think they've got a really young defense as well. Pat McKinnon is a lot on his shoulders if he can get some sacks this year. Need to get some pass rush going, but I'd go with you as well. Falcons to win first game.
What are you saying, Jeff?
Well, I think it's going to be a great football game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as maybe they think it's going to be. Both these teams can play great defense. What's going to be telltale to me is, there's a thing called the Super Bowl hangover, and it's a phenomenon that occurs with a lot of football teams, that they don't come back and play as well after Super Bowl as they did during that season, because of everybody wants to take a bow, everybody's on the banquet circuit, everybody's making money with endorsements, and the focus of your football team changes. So I think this is going to be a very close football game, but I just give the Eagles the nod as a home team. I think the home team advantage is worth 3 points across the board in the National Football League. So I think it's going to be a close football game, but I think the Eagles win.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, Jeff knows more than me, doesn't he, Ben? So,
Well, apparently.
It depends who you're backing, really. Let's get into the 6 p.m. games. Which ones, Ben, take your fancy straight off the bat there?
Well, the Sky have got the 49ers at the Vikings, and I think everyone's pretty hot on both of these teams at the moment. There's the Jimmy Garoppolo potential hangover as well after his hot start in San Francisco. I'm not really believing the hype at the moment. I'm thinking this is not an easy win for the Vikings, but I'm seeing this as Vikings win all day.
Are you?
Yeah, you?
So, well, I've got a couple of stats here for Jimmy Garoppolo fans. He's 7-0 as a starter, making him one of 7 quarterbacks to win his first 7 starts since 1970. Got 7s in there. And his 2,038 passing yards in his first 7 starts ranked 4th over the past 49 seasons. So Jimmy Garoppolo looks sharp. He looks great. But Jeff, what are you seeing from young Garoppolo? He kind of came into this 1-10 team without a hope. Obviously had a great finish to the end of the season. Can he continue it now and take it to a really, really good Minnesota team?
Well, first of all, I think Shanahan did an outstanding job of handling that situation. They got him from New England, but they didn't rush him into games before he was ready to play. He stood around and watched a couple of weeks, really learned the offense, developed some chemistry with his receivers on the practice field, and then was able to go in and play extremely well at the end of the season. You know, he's an exciting young talent, but the reality of it is he's only had, 7 starts. Now, again, if you're just playing odds, you're going to say that the ability to stay perfect is going to run out. And I think Minnesota's defense will have an awful lot to do with that. I think San Francisco can improve. I just don't know if their total roster is ready yet to be a playoff. Minnesota is primed to be a playoff team. I think their success last year proves that. I think Kirk Cousins, obviously he's got a lot of pressure on him because of the big contract signed to Minnesota, high expectations. But he's never backed away from pressure in his career. So I really think the Vikings are a team that is one of half dozen or 10 teams that certainly has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah, you talked about Kirk Cousins there. He's thrown 4,000 yards and over 25 touchdowns in each of the last 3 seasons. And they weren't spectacular Washington Redskins teams anyway. And now he's got some nice weapons. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen will both be looking to get high amongst the touchdown scorers this year. Jeff, I love that Minnesota D. It looks so tough. You've got a great secondary at the back there, Ben.
Yeah, Xavier Rhodes is he might be the best man-to-man corner in the league, I think.
Absolutely, I think you're right. And they are, as you said, they're a heavy favourite, and the spread gives them at minus 6.5. Do you think a touchdown is enough? If you gave the 49ers a touchdown, do you think that'd be enough for them to win it?
No, not for me. I think the Vikings it's going to be comfortable, maybe 10. Yeah, I'll go 10 points.
10 points?
10 points Vikings.
Wow, there you go.
Listen to you guys talk about comfortable.
Yeah.
there ain't no comfortable wins in pro football. Instead, everyone's a grinded out, ugly. You're bleeding till the last close game. But I think this is a game where Minnesota does have the potential to win touchdown.
Do you think, Jeff, that do you believe in Super Bowl windows? And if so, is this one for Minnesota?
Yeah, I think that's a reality that we're faced with now in this age of free agency and the salary cap, that you're only going to have an opportunity for a very short time. That's what makes what New England's done so incredible. But, the Vikings are now in that window, firmly in that window where, barring injury and things that you can't control, this is a team that's good on every level on defense. They've got an outstanding quarterback. They've got a good running game. They've got enough receiver talent. You'd like to see a little bit more of one more vertical threat at receiver. But the question now will come is offensive line-wise, can they keep up? Is that be the issue to me as you go through the season? Because I think every other area of the football team is outside.
Yeah, well, you can get them at 12-1, Jeff, if you fancy the Minnesota Vikings to make it all the way to the Super Bowl this year. Ben, you're going to have a flutter on that?
12-1 maybe. I bet like the Falcons at 20, to be honest. We go back a game, so I'd back the Falcons.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, let's carry on. By now you've settled in. You're watching Sunday Night Football. You've enjoyed the early game. You might as well stay for the 9:25 game, right? And it's going to be quite a fun little game. The Cowboys at the Panthers. Neither at the powers that they once were a couple of years ago, I would say, Ben. But both of these teams will fancy to get off to a 1-0 start here.
Yeah, they're both playoff teams over the last couple of years, so I'm sure they're both fancying their chances. I think the Cowboys, now they've got Zeke back, they're going to be feeling good. I know their offensive line is in tatters, and that does kind of ruin their plan with Zeke. So it'll be interesting if they need to use Dak and need to use the receivers. They've got a lot of 2 new receivers with Hearns and Gallup, so they need to get one of those going, especially if the O-line's struggling. So there's quite a few question marks there, and the Panthers, I think, have some question marks as well.
Yeah.
That offense needs to get going. Is the defense the force it was a few years ago? I think this could be an interesting game.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of questions there for you, Jeff, but I want to pick out one in particular. The Cowboys wide receiver core was a big talking point, especially when Des Bryant left at the end of last year. How important is it going to be that these guys can gel with Dak Prescott and get off to a flying start?
Well, it's going to be really important, Tom, because, until you prove that you can beat single coverage outside, when you have a back like Ezekiel Elliott, you're going to face 8 and 9 man fronts the whole game, and you just don't have enough people to block everybody. So if they can find a way to get some plays outside, and, that's going to be the big question, because everybody's going to load the box. Everybody's going to say, prove it to us that you can throw it well enough. And again, Dak's going to have to shift in some of that too, because he had a little bit of a down year last year. And so can he demonstrate the ability to drop back from the pocket and beat single coverage outside? If he can, then I think the Cowboys are going to be a factor. If he can't, there will be a one-dimensional football team that has to run the ball, play defense to win, and that's not the prescription for winning it more in the NFL.
Yeah, the Panthers, Jeff, here are 3-point favourites, but I think that massively relies on the quality of running back Christian McCaffrey. Now, we saw him as a rookie last year. He kind of showed some splashes of what he could do, but he really needs to step up. In college, he was talked about as this pass-catching running back and a really dynamic player. Jeff, do you see him making a big leap in year 2?
Well, I think he's going to, because of the fact he's in a situation where Norv Turner, has always, we go back through Norv Turner's history.
Yeah.
He wants to have a running game. He wants to be able to play action on the running game. McCaffrey showed to me, in college, he can run between the tackles. I think it's one of those deals where, people look at him and they go, well, he's not going to be physical enough to love between the tackles. But the kid is strong. He doesn't take straight on hits. He understands how to protect himself. And he's dynamic once he has his chance. Olsen will benefit from that. Outside, they'll benefit from that. And I think the guy that stands the opportunity to benefit is Cam Newton, because once you get single out, I think Cam does better than most guys. He's an extremely good deep ball thrower. And if they can generate a running game, then without him, I'm not talking about zone read and all that. I'm talking about high formation, power football, the kind of football that Norv Turner wants to play. Then those receivers outside will get those one-on-one matchups. Olsen will get one-on-one matchups. And when you pair Olsen against linebacker or safety, then Carolina has a huge advantage.
Yeah, looking at McCaffrey's stats from last year, it's 435 rushing yards. I know he was sharing a lot of those with Jordan Stewart, and now there's CJ Anderson there, but are we looking at him getting to 1,000 yards? Is that kind of the number he needs to be at for the Panthers to be a serious team?
Well, I don't know if he needs to be at it, but I know that he's capable of having that in a year. Now, again, that's all based on his ability to stay healthy. But again, the Panthers, to me, are like the Vikings to a certain degree, in that the thing's going to really depend how well that offensive line plays. They lost their best offensive lineman, free agent. And, it's hard to replace great offensive linemen. So I think John Maxwell, the offensive line coach there, and Turner had to figure out a scheme that allows them to win with offensive linemen that, frankly, are not, fresh young guys.
That's going to be an interesting one. Ben, who are you fancying to come out on top there?
I'm going the Cowboys. I'm going for the Cowboys for a bounce back year as all in. I think I saw them at 33-1 for the Super Bowl as well. So I'm not discounting the Cowboys.
Right.
Overall.
Wow.
What about that game? You going Panthers at home?
Yeah, I would fancy the Panthers at home, even at 3-point favourites. You can take the Dallas team at 13-10 straight up. But to me, I think the Panthers have too much. Their front seven, their defensive front seven, is possibly the best in the NFL, and the Cowboys are a little bit banged up on their offensive line. I just see K'Wan Short causing havoc on Sunday night. I'm quite excited to see that, to be honest.
I think it'll be a really good game. That'll be bruising. Jeff loves a bit of bruise bowls.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Bruise bowls going.
Jeff, are you seeing this one as a bit of a fight out?
Yeah, guys, I think that Tommy, I agree with you. I think that front seven of Carolina, is just too good for the Cowboys. And again, until Dallas shows me that they can win against one-on-one coverage outside consistently, then I think the Cowboys are going to struggle to score points, and that puts too much pressure on that defense. Fellas, it's been a blast. I got to run to practice, so again, I look forward to doing this every week with you guys.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us.
Jeff.
We appreciate you. Good luck at practice. Show him who's boss, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, fellas, take care.
Cheers.
See you later.
Welcome back to the NFL preview show, powered by Oddschecker. Now, Jeff had to leave us. He had to run off to practice, Ben.
He's busy. He's a busy man. He always is, isn't he?
He always is on the go, but we're looking forward to getting in hopefully every week if we can negotiate his time well enough. But we're going to carry on, talk about Sunday night football, and this is probably the matchup of the week, would you say?
Who would have thought it? The Bears in the matchup of the week.
It's a ridiculous one to say, but it's going to be an even more ridiculous one to watch. Bears at Packers. And the NFL's oldest rivalry, Ben.
It is the oldest rivalry. I've heard that before, yes. And it's at Lambeau Field, which is historically the best ground everyone says to go and watch football at. So the greatest rivalry, maybe at the greatest stadium. I think it's going to be not the greatest match ever, but it'll be a good game.
Well, let's hope it's the greatest match of week one. It's a bit of a tough one if you're working on a Monday morning, but those diehard NFL fans will stay up for that one.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting one, obviously with Bears adding Khalil Mack to their already loaded defense. It makes it a very intriguing proposition all round. Do you see, because before Khalil Mack, I think everybody was thinking Packers all the way here, Ben. Does the Khalil Mack change things enough for the Bears to stand a good chance at getting a result at Lambeau?
I think it does change things. I think there's still a lot riding on Aaron Rodgers this year. Last season he missed a lot of football, and I think that's really played on him. And now this is his season. I think he feels that this is his time, and I don't think he's he's not going to try and let someone like Khalil Mack coming his way. I'm sure they'll be doing some different scheming now. The interesting thing is the trade, it's come quite late, this trade.
Yeah.
So they've been preparing for this game all off season, really. They know kind of what the Bears are going to be, what's happening, and this really throws a span in the works. So that might cause a few issues.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy said that he called Mack an extraordinary player, and that they basically had to watch tape all day on Sunday and just try and work out what they were going to do to cover these guys. Now, Aaron Rodgers obviously made his own news, $134 million extension, which is not bad work if you can get it. And like you say here, Aaron Rodgers has an opportunity. He's only got one Super Bowl so far, and for some people who call him the greatest of all time, that's not quite enough, is it? You know, he's in this window where Aaron Rodgers needs to leave his mark.
Yeah, he does need to leave his mark, and Mike McCarthy, needs to leave his mark as well. He's kind of at the time where he's had this great quarterback, and he's not got a lot to show for it either. So both parties at this point need to show a little bit more. And I think if you're looking at Aaron Rodgers, you're going to be disappointed with what they've been getting out of the running game recently. And they're looking at, you've got Aaron Jones, who is injured, and you've got Jamal Williams. So you need Jamal Williams to step up, and then when Aaron Jones comes back, you need a little bit of support from your backfield to then give yourself a platform. Jeff was talking about it earlier with some other preview games, that if you can open up the backfield, then that opens up the passing game. So I think a lot rides on that Green Bay backfield this year, and also the defense as well.
Well, I want to talk one more. I think the real secret behind the Green Bay offense this year is Jimmy Graham. I think he can be a real game changer. I've heard a couple of analysts say that he could break the tight end touchdown record. And with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, anything could happen. Aaron Rodgers made Jordy Nelson an absolute world beater, and Jimmy Graham, back when he was in New Orleans a long time ago, was absolutely brilliant. So to see that again would be, it would be a dream come true for both players, because that's what could fire them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. I think Graham had 10 touchdowns last year. I could be wrong on that, but I think he had 10 touchdowns, and he struggled a lot, to be fair. So those kind of numbers, they're good numbers anyway. So if Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking at him in the end zone, because Jordy Nelson used to be his go-to guy in the end zone, and he's not there anymore. So he's got to have someone to replace him.
Well, this NFC North powerhouse clash, it's quite interesting looking at the spread here for the NFC North winner, because you've got the Chicago Bears down there at 9-1 to win the division.
Yeah.
You don't think there's any chance of that?
I think there's a chance. I'd be tempted at 9-1, but I still see two teams, Vikings and the Packers, who I'd put ahead of the Bears.
Yeah, well, the Packers will be a little bit put out that they are only second favourite. Yeah, 33-20. It's the Vikings 11-10 that are taking the shortest odds. Do you think that's fair? I mean, we just sang the Vikings praises.
I can't knock the Vikings at all. I think that is completely fair, but Aaron Rodgers will not be happy about that. I'd go Vikings to win the division. You'd go.
I think I'm going to go Packers just to keep it interesting. Yeah, I mean, Rodgers plays best when he's got that chip on his shoulder.
Bears to go 10-6 to make the playoffs.
Yeah?
No.
Well, we shall see on that one. I'm going to go for a Green Bay win in Green Bay, I think.
I'm going to go for a Bears win, shock factor of Mac.
Wow.
turn the table.
It is interesting because
I think it's going to be a close game.
Everybody coming out of Bears training has said how important Mac has already been. The way he trains, the way he gets after people, the mood in Chicago has just completely lifted. It's things like this, as bad as it could be for Oakland, could be a real catalyst for a great season for Chicago.
Yeah. When would you ever foresee someone like Mac coming onto your team? No one saw it coming. So now it's only going to enhance and lift your team.
Well, there you go. If you fancy it, the Bears are 29-10. So get on it if you're in good spirits. Now, Monday Night Football, first game of the season, first Monday of the season, always has 2 games, which is not so fun for UK audiences, but that's the way it is.
That is the way it is.
You know, we live in America's world, don't we, Ben?
America's history.
Yeah, so 12-10 is the Jets at the Detroit Lions. Lions big favourites in this one.
You're quite high on Sam Darnold, aren't you?
I am not so much high on Sam Darnold as intrigued.
Okay.
But I feel like he could be up here or down here.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see him play.
So for this game, is Sam Darnold going to be up here or down here?
Well, that's an interesting one because I don't rate the Lions' defense too much. I think that they have holes. Matt Patricia is obviously a bit of a wizard when it comes to...
Yeah, that's his forte, isn't it?
The defense. But this is interesting because I'm backing Isaiah Crowell to be a live wire for the Jets at running back. I think he's going to be an exciting prospect. He never quite got it going in Cleveland. He only got 2 touchdowns last year, about 800 yards, but I think he could put it together in New York, and I'm quite excited to see him with more of the ball. Robbie Anderson, if he can keep himself on the straight and narrow, he'll be a really good player. So the Jets have pieces that if they can put it together, they'll be a very good football team. The Lions, for me, are still a team in transition. They've got Matt Stafford, great quarterback, but the rest of it still needs to come together. I don't think the Lions are a finished article, and that's why I think the Jets have a chance in this one.
Yeah, I do. I think the Lions' passing offense is close to being finished. They've got a great quarterback in Stafford. You look at Jones and Golden Tate, and there's 2 great receivers. You're not getting a lot better combinations than those 2. Tight end was a bit of an issue for a long time, and Ebron's gone now. And then the running back obviously has been an issue for a long time. So they've got Kerryon Johnson now. That could be interesting. Everyone is tipping him to be a big player for them this year. He could go off the charts. No, recently rookie running backs have gone off the charts. If he does get going, that could be a big change for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned there the wide receiver core, Marvin Jones and Golden Tate. I'm looking forward to seeing them going up against a guy as good as Tremaine Johnson, who arrived.
Yeah, of course, new signings.
Arrived in the off-season. I think he's going to be a really good player. I just think the odds are a little bit unfair on the Jets. I see this as a much more open game, but many bookmakers have the Jets out at 12-5. I just think there's value there to be had if they can put it together. It's a bit of a risk, but I like that one.
I'm going to back the Lions there. I think the first game, Sam Darnold, I don't think he's got enough yet, and I think the Lions are a sneaky good team.
Well, if you believe Ben, you can go with the Lions at 1-3 if you're going to be safe about it. And so the last game of Week 1, Ben, it's a late one. It's 3:20 a.m. on Tuesday morning for British fans. The LA Rams against the Oakland Raiders. To me, this is kind of one team full of riches, and at this point, one team full of rags.
It seems like, but it's Gruden against the new Gruden. Everyone's saying Sean McVay is the new John Gruden, the young guy on the block who's come up with loads of new play calls, loads of new exciting schemes and everything like this. And obviously they've got Wade Phillips on defense as well. So they've created this amazing squad out of nowhere almost. And this is what John Gruden was doing back in the day. So I think John Gruden is going to be fired up for this game because everyone's saying this is the new and improved Gruden. It's not just Raiders v Rams. It's John Gruden against the world.
I think your problem is that you love Gruden
I
too
love
much.
Gruden. I love the story.
The Rams have Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp,
Keep
Robert
going.
Woods, Jared Goff another year under McVay. These guys are just so packed, and they've got quality on defense as well. You know, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. These guys are just so loaded. It's almost unfair. I kind of feel like if the Rams don't get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a bit of a failure for them.
Yeah, I think it might be. But what about the fact that Donald's had missed all off-season? Where do you stand on this? Like Donald missing,
Not
had
gonna
Lev
matter.
Bell missing. It doesn't matter.
No.
He just slots in. He knows the scheme. It's fine.
Luke Donald will get that contract done. I fancy the Rams at 11-1 to make the to make the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the one for me. The Rams and the Raiders, to me, there's no contest there. It's LA Rams every day.
Even with Luke Donald playing defensive tackle? Aaron Donald.
Come on. Did I say Luke
You said
Donald?
Luke Donald.
Oh, goodness me.
We do golf bets as well.
Well, right, well, that's a terrible way to finish, but we've got to end it here. Thank you to Jeff for joining us. We really appreciate that. Thank you, Ben, for joining me.
Thank you, Tom.
And thanks to Oddschecker for powering this. This has been the NFL preview. We'll be back next week. You'll see us all through Oddschecker. We're going to do loads of little fun videos to give you a few tips throughout the season, so stay tuned for those. It's going to be a fun season. And good luck to you.